Efficiency.
Hey! So, my darling vice president will come up and give us a demonstration on how to prune for the fall. If you've never seen Terry do a demonstration on pruning, you are in for a treat.
Yeah.
Nobody makes it
I
quite
think
as
I can build up,
entertaining
right?
as Terry does. Alright?
Okay, so if you want to come around here and make sure, because you might have to adjust it, because I'm a little taller than you.
Are you saying I'm short?
No, just a little taller.
Okay. How about we get a rose bush in the picture?
What's that?
How about we get a rose bush in the picture?
You're gonna be the camera operator. Okay, so this is the time of year when we do our second main pruning, and the first one being in January, when we do the winter prune, where you're gonna take down 2/3 of your bushes and remove all the leaves. That's the big reset. Is the January prune that sets up the whole season. Now what we're doing is the fall pruning, and the reason we're pruning end of January, end of September is timing. So we're timing the rose blooms to come in to being when the temperature range is between 80 and 60 and 40 and 50 at night. Same in the spring. So April and November are our big bloom seasons. So when we time our pruning is we're anticipating the roses to arrive when the temperature range is perfect, and then you get the nice big blooms again like we did in spring. So that's what we're doing. But in the fall, because we're going from hot to less hot, it's going to be a really light pruning. It's almost a deadheading, really. This is the specimen here that I hope someone's gonna bid on tonight and take home, because I'm not. This is Perfume Delight. It's a 1974 All-American Rose Selection winner. Very fragrant, deep magenta pink. Did I say pink?
A little bit louder.
Pink.
Okay.
So, and you can see it's come through the summer, and you're gonna see some of these leaves here that look pretty raggedy. These are just old, worn out leaves. When you get this browning on the edge like that, that's just from the heat. The rose can't hold on to enough moisture, and so it starts to die back from the edges. But if it offends you, just pop them off of there. But you're gonna leave most of the other leaves on there. So, what you're gonna need for this operation is a good bypass pruner. These are Felco number 2s. So they're gonna have like a scissor action. You don't wanna use an anvil type pruner that has a straight blade that comes down straight on it. It'll crush the stems. And that's gonna invite dieback and different situations that you don't want. Also bypass loppers if you had some dead canes you wanna take out. A pruner is a good thing to have too if the canes are real heavy. This is just a Felco. This one, of course, is just a young bush that's probably about 1.5 years old since it's left the field. And then a nice pair of gloves. These are worn out. I can get a new pair every year. These are goat skin. So this is goat skin sleeve, which is very thorn resistant, very soft, and then just a cowhide here. But they're pretty effective as far as protecting. So those are a few of the tools you're going to need. Any questions so far? So if we were going to do like just a regular deadheading, like say this is just a summer thing, see where the old bloom is here, we're going to look for where the bud eyes on this stem are. We're always pruning to the bud eyes. And to find the bud eye, you're going to pop this leaf off, and where that little nub is, that's the bud eye. So if this were just a basic deadheading in the summer where you're growing leaves and not flowers, you're going to cut it right 1/4 inch above where that bud eye is. Okay? Now, since we're going to go do a fall pruning, we want to go a little bit further down. So it's almost like deadheading, but you're going to get down to a thicker stem, and you're going to leave that leaf on. Because the leaves are going to shade the canes, so we'll still be in the hundreds. Even in October, we could be in the hundreds. In fact, 3 years ago, it was 99 on Halloween. So just get ready. So basically, that's all you're going to do. You're just going to go through and just lightly prune it. You're going to go down a little bit more. Now this is an immature bush, so it's typically you're going to take 2/3 off, but this I might be a little bit more. Now if you come across situations like this where there was a flower in the springtime, do you guys see this? You're going to take out this dead stuff and just do a basic cleanup. See, like stuff like that where it had bloomed earlier in the spring and now it's just sort of like died back. You're going to do cleanup like that too. And then when you get to a place where there's like a spray, like here you can see there's been a bunch of blooms out here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take out the weaker stuff and leave the main stuff. So what I usually do is I go into the middle and I'll cut out some of the stuff out of the center. And then when I get to like this one here, there's like, it's got 2 branches coming out. I don't want that. Cut close to the stem. And now we've got something to work with. So I'm going to come down to this bud eye and cut that. This one here is another split. So you're going to go down below the split to where you see the bud eye. And then here there's where the leaf is. The leaves will always guide you to the bud eyes. You're going to cut right there. So you're going to get 3 blooms, one here, one there, and one there. And then this little squiggly here, he can just stay because he'll be providing some shade, but he's not going to bloom. If this were the winter time, you would take this whole thing off, like that. So again, you're looking for bud eyes, looking for opportunity to, like here's another one here. You can see where it's split off. It's bloomed, 1, 2, 3, 4 blooms here. But this is the best stem, really. So again, you go back to the center, cut out that center piece. So this is what I'm cutting out, those 2 thin little canes there. Come down to where you get a nice size cane there. That's almost a pencil thickness, which is ideal. And then you have this next one here, which isn't too bad. I'll cut above this leaflet, and that's going to produce another bloom. The rose is always going to respond to the pruning. So basically, you're just going through and lightly trimming out, where you're going down further than you would on a dead head. So, turn this. And you're going to go through all this stuff. Like here's a nice little guy here, and it's split on the end. Go beneath that split, and you could probably get away with that. That's decent. It's not always going to be ideal, but that's going to be a nice strong platform for the next bloom to come on. And then up here, actually you've got 3 stems coming out, but they're good. They're going to produce blooms, so they're thick enough. So you cut about there, and I would cut down there. Because this one has another side bloom here, where that had probably bloomed or did something. And you could have done that, where you just cut that away and gone up to that. That's acceptable too. You know, it's your rose bush, you know, you're gonna do what you want, but basically you're just lightly trimming it and cleaning it up as you go along. And here's some wackiness down here. And you may as well just leave these old leaves on there because they're going to provide some shade. They're going to fall off eventually anyways. You can pull them. But in the wintertime, of course, that will all be shorn away. So now we're back to this end. Any questions about what I'm doing? Any concerns? Fall pruning is really the easiest pruning. The winter is so much more involved, and you're really cleaning up the bushes. Because if this was a winter pruning, you'd be stripping all the leaves off, and you would take off all the weak little stems, And any dead canes or any crisscrossing canes, you would open those up. But that's for the winter time when it's colder. But in the summer, you don't want to do that severe of a trim on it. You want to be a little more easy on it because they're just struggling to come out of summer. But I'll tell you, this has been the best August that I've ever had because of all the rain. Usually my whole garden is just burned up. So we got a break this year. Just do that. And that's basically it. Just clean up all the stuff around there so that you don't have any insects on some of the dead leaves. And just, if you want, you can go through it if it looks a little more pleasing and clean these guys off. You don't have to, but it does look nicer. Now in the old days, when we used to, here's a spot here, see where that has died back? Can you guys see that? Get rid of that, because this is going to keep dying back. So you cut real close, get rid of that. Here's another one here. Can you see that? Yeah. Take that off. In the old days, when we were exhibitors like mad, there would be 3 fall shows. And so what a lot of the people did was they trimmed their bushes in 1/3. So say this is, so this is north, south. You would prune 1/3 of the bush on the northeast side, say. Then you would do the next third on the northwest side, and then the last third on the south side. And that way you're timing your blooms so you have 3 bloom waves per bush, so you can have something to take to the 3 shows because they're every week. So 1 week you would do 1/3, another week another third, and the last week you finish the rows on the third one. And just bring home all the trophies. All right, any questions?
Mine's budding already.
It's responding to the rains, yeah. And you've been deadheading yours all through the season? Or?
I do.
Yeah, they're always going to respond to pruning. I've got little buds coming up too, just doing basic deadheading. But this way you're going to have longer stems when you go down just a bit more. So let them bloom out, you've got plenty of time. I usually don't start my pruning until about the 21st. The fall equinox is generally when I get going on my stuff. And then bring your fertilizing up slowly. It's still going to be pretty hot. And once you start to fertilize, don't rely on the drip system to irrigate that. You've got to use the hose. You have to have a good flush of water because you're basically applying salt, and you don't want that salt to burn those feeder roots up the surface. So once you commit to fertilizing or a fertilizing program, you're not going to get away from the hose. You've got to flood those pots or beds with lots of water to move that fertilizer down through the soil and get it down into the root zone where the bacteria take over. Basically, we feed the soil first, and the soil feeds the rows. So we're always feeding bacteria first. And I know Lou's going to talk about fish emulsion, which is basically yogurt for the soil. That's fantastic stuff. It helps those bacteria. It spikes the bacterial content in the soil, breaks all that down, and then it makes it available to the rows and it kicks into the rows. And you're going to get deep, beautiful colors. The foliage will be almost a black-green. But yeah, essentially you're feeding the soil first, then you're going to feed the rose bush.
Jerry,
Yes?
Do you need to cover those big branches with, say, glue or something so they don't have bugs on them?
You can. A lot of times what she's talking about is, she's asking if we need to seal the cuts with a carpenter's glue, which we do in the wintertime. You can. Some people are just religious about it. I'm not. I'm too lazy. But you can, since you just made the fresh cuts, you can go through and seal those up against cane borer, which you're going to see when you start pruning your roses. You might have some little holes going down the stems. That's from the cane borer wasp. So yeah, you can do that. Absolutely.
Are there any roses that you shouldn't prune? I know we're talking about pruning to promote new blooms, but if you have a once blooming rose, would you prune that?
she's asking if you should prune the once bloomers, like the species roses or some of the OGRs like
Yeah.
that. If it's like a tombstone rose, a Lady Banksia, then no, those you prune after they're blue in the spring. And so, because they bloom on that new growth. So, yes.
How about the climbers?
Yeah, you can prune the climbers. Yeah, that's fine. This should be a repeat bloomer. If it's an old Gallica rose, something like that, you don't have to, you can clean them up, but you can get new growth, but it's not gonna produce any blooms. I used to have a problem with Gertrude Jekyll. I don't know if any of you grow that rose, but it would never bloom for me in the fall. So last year, I was making room for another car in my carport. That's where Gertrude Jekyll was, in a pot. So I had to really chop her down. This was like the end of September. And I had to move her under the arbor or the trellis and get her on the other side so there'd be room to park another car in there. I like cars. She bloomed like crazy. A hard prune on Gertrude Jekyll produced blooms that I never got. I would be like real gentle. I'm like, oh, she's not gonna bloom anyways. Bam! She totally responded. So yeah.
You mentioned the one item for sealing the cut stems. Did you say carpenter?
Carpenter's wood glue.
Is it a black substance?
No, it's just like a tan. You know, like
Okay.
Elmer's
Yes.
glue, the white glue.
Yeah.
You could use that, but the
Oh.
carpenter's glue is a little more. I don't know if it's more waterproof. It's waterproof. Okay.
So you don't recommend?
Oh, okay. So Diane's saying is the carpenter's glue is, you know, it could be Elmer's or whatever brand.
Then you don't recommend that black tar? That
The pitch?
is larger?
You don't have to. I would just use the wood glue.
Okay.
You know, that's going to be plenty, and it's going to form a hard shell that the wasp can't burrow into there. So, but they're more prevalent. The wasps are more prevalent in the springtime, and when you have all the leaves off and all the canes exposed, like about a week after you do the winter pruning, then I go through after they weep out a little bit. Another thing too is when you are making your cuts, you know how we say how to make the cut like at an angle. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah.
So here's why we do that. So there, it's at that little angle there. It's so that when it bleeds out, it runs off. If it's straight, it's just going to puddle and pool on there. So that helps it drain off of there. Does that make sense? So that's why we cut it at an angle. And it looks nicer too. Okay.
So you do wait about a week after you prune to put the glue on? I've heard different.
I do. I mean, I have a friend of mine, she does it, as soon as she cuts, she's gluing it, and it works for her. Because I've seen her roses, and I'm like, oh. But for me, like, especially in the winter months, like even 2 weeks afterward, it's still, like whenever you water them, it's still running out because it's pushing that water up through the stems. But yeah, or you can wait till the afternoon. If you water in the morning, wait till the afternoon and seal them. You have a better chance of it sticking. And if it doesn't, you can just go through and you'll see the ones where it's just had run off and just re-glue it again. But they will tend to weep out a bit. And sometimes they'll even push that glue right off the stem there. Any more questions? All right, now you gotta get busy. And you'll have wonderful blooms in November. So yeah, start around the 21st or later and have at it. Okay.
Can you see the bud eye? I don't think I know what that, I looked it up on my phone, but I wouldn't think there are bud eyes this early.
There's always a bud eye.
Okay.
There's always going to be in England, and there's always going to be a bud eye. So here's, if you pop this leaf off, see that little nub? It's not very pronounced. It looks like a little smiley face. That's the bud eye. And it's always going to be at the base of the leaf. Okay? So that's, if you look for the leaves, you're going to find the bud eyes.
Okay.
You see right, so you see that one right there.
Yeah. Okay. Tiny, but yeah.
Yes.
Right.
But that's where you want to prune to. You're always looking for the bud eyes. Okay? All right, then all I have left is to auction this sucker out here. You want to just stop that? We can edit that in post, right?